Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope you are doing well and having a great morning. I am about ready to prepare breakfast for my kiddos since it is a weekday morning. But today's video, I wanted to talk about how a book really was a game changer for me when it came to relearning how to speak with dentures. And for those of you that haven't started this process yet, you may think that sounds crazy. That that you have to relearn how to talk, but you do. And I'll never forget, before I have my surgery done, I have a good friend that is a speech therapist that said, listen, I'm going to tell you the key to being able to speak. Because, like I said before, I'm a pastor at a local church, and I have to do a lot of teaching and speaking. So I'm the next gen pastor, so I teach a lot of classes, like Sunday school classes, but then sometimes I have to speak in front of the entire church. So I knew for me, speaking was going to be a hurdle. Not just food, which I've learned very quickly. And my case is a little unique with bone issues and some other things, but I learned that speaking was going to be something I was going to have to figure out. And so I remembered what she said, and I got this book, and every day I made myself read pages out of it. And at the beginning, honestly, I was a hot mess. It didn't sound good. I was slurring most of my words, it felt like. Now you can hear my S's are still rough. Some of my THs are still rough. Trying to think what other ones. If I talk fast, it can be a little rough. I have a tendency, and I've always done this, and it drives my husband crazy, but I've always talked very low and kind of muffled to where, like, sometimes it's hard to hear what I'm saying before I got this done. So now this intensifies it. So, there are still things I need to work on. One, articulation. I needed to work on articulating and not talking muffled before this, but now I really need to continue to work on it and some of those sounds. But I'll tell you what, at the beginning, every sound sounded horrible. I was like, oh, Lord, how am I going to be able to do this? And then every day I read. I read at least a few pages, some days more pages. I love to be a learner. I feel like, I've just always learned all my life. I'm always reading a book, whether it's a book on my profession, a parenting book, a book for enjoyment, just whatever it is. I'm always reading. I'm always learning. And I just love to read and learn. And so the habit wasn't necessarily hard because I already do it, but it helped me tremendously. And so here's the outcome of it. So I'm 7 weeks in. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, I had to teach a class full of middle schoolers, which I told you guys, and it went pretty well. And then last weekend, I had to, now it was just like an announcement portion, but I had to do some speaking in front of an even larger group of people. And that went well. And here's the other trick that I've learned to this. To me, everything sounds off. It really does. Like, sometimes I'll talk and I'll think, like, all of that sounded like it needs work. But the other thing that she told me to do is record yourself. Video record yourself or audio record yourself reading. And then play it back. Because you're going to read it and think, oh my goodness, when am I going to talk like I used to talk? But there have been so many times where I play it back and I'm like, wow, I actually sounded pretty decent. There were a couple sounds that maybe they were a little bit slurred, maybe a little bit not articulated perfectly, but they were pretty good for, basically having a whole new prosthetic in your mouth that you're not used to. You're not used to a hard palate in your mouth that your tongue's hitting, and where your tongue needs to hit in relation to your teeth and all of those things. So that is my advice with talking. I know a lot of you have asked me, how in the world did you get over the barrier of talking when you have a job and a profession that you have to speak a lot? And believe me, that was one of my anxiety points going into this. I knew my profession. I knew how much I had to speak in front of people. And I thought, how's this going to work? And I was nervous about that. But I will say, if you're willing to put in the work, as simple as reading each day, maybe recording yourself, listening to that, if you're willing to put in the work, you will get better, and your speech will go back to the place. I have found myself probably now 5 or 6 different times in the last 2 weeks where I forgot I had them in. Now, I'll be honest with you. On day 1, I thought I will never forget that my teeth are not in. I will never forget that my real teeth are gone. But it's starting to happen more and more, and I think it's just because I'm getting used to them. And so I just wanted to encourage you, practice, 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 whether it's eating, whether it's reading, to be able to talk and articulate better. Things will get better. You will continue to heal and be back to your normal self and see glimpses of the old